Listen,
This is the we're well. You know what we haven't really said. We talked about a little bit about anatomy.
Yeah.
About how men got to clean out their colon, and that's where the fruit comes in.
listen, man. Tell them the tricks to maintain it. Oh, they call it right back.
Call her back. Okay, where are we at? The tricks to maintaining
A healthy male, because
a dog.
Yeah. And is there any nutritional things that you can do to keep a dog's bones strong? And can you breed stronger bones into a dog?
You know what? Okay, that's a great question. But when is the last time someone physically went and did a bone density mineral accumulation count on their dogs?
I ain't never even heard of it.
It probably never. That stuff's done mostly in research, and the funny thing, the research that's being done on that is to make pharmaceutical products for humans, okay? So, with that being said, when we are producing little, because calcium deposits and calcium levels, it starts with these little tiny cells known as osteoblasts, turn into osteoclast, and eventually they calcify, right? So what is calcium? It's a mineral. It's a mineral that, just like a rock, with time, under pressure, under water, under certain circumstances, environment, whatever, it'll start to waste away. So even humans, we're encouraged to walk, because by doing these little steps and motions and everything, that stimulates the production of osteoblasts, osteoclasts, to eventually get that formation of bone, to have that density. Now, there are certain things, certain foods, luckily, dogs don't drink soda pop. Dogs don't drink certain products that will leach their calcium levels or deplete. Now, unfortunately, Father Time stands undefeated. You'll notice as time goes and they get older, there'll be certain, you look at the mass of their muscle and it starts to deplete. You look at their hormonal levels, I'm just going to refer to as testosterone. It starts to deplete. You start looking at the production rate of their erythrocytes, meaning red blood cells. How do those get formed? Well, it starts with, at the kidneys. And then where does that lead to? EPO, erythropoietin. Erythropoietin, what stimulates what? The bone marrow. Bone marrow starts to release those little osteoblasts, that's calcium levels. The erythrocytes, and those are your new red blood cells, because red blood cells, when they get old, they get recycled. When you're young and you're, and you're in your prime, your peak, you're doing it at a very consistent level. I believe, don't quote me on this, it's about 3 months for a red blood cell to go through its entire life stage, but then it's recycled. And then one of the important parts of it is the hemoglobin, right? Heme is where the oxygen is carried, and that's where you have your oxygen exchange rates, But with that being said, controlling the levels of actual calcium intake, and I would say it doesn't work by itself. You need to take into account that you've got something that's going to create something to synthesize it, to start mineralizing that, and that is in the form of vitamin D. But then again, vitamin D, what does vitamin D need to be activated and synthesized? Good old beautiful sunshine, sunlight, So there's certain environmental factors that we do without knowing so, that prevent or doesn't let that dog reach its maximum potential. I'm going to give a prime example. There are certain animals that unfortunately are housed for too long. They're indoors for too long. Now, if you do that as a human being, right on, no big deal. But your animal, if you do not have it out there, you start to affect their circadian rhythms. An animal has to go through an entire circadian rhythm every 24 hours. Every 24 hours. There's a CHP right there. Hey, buddy. And then if and when and it happens with plants. Also, people that are into growing cannabis, it's very common here in California. You notice that they'll take 12 hours of light on, 12 hours of light off. So us, as animals too, need a certain balance of that, and we need a certain amount of time where we get that exposure. So if you have a dog that's constantly indoors, or I hate to say this, some people just kennel them in their garages and they get out, you'll notice that their circadian rhythms are out of whack. And first thing that I tell people, why has she gone into heat? Well, X, Y, and Z. Well, how much sunshine is she getting? And as basic as it sounds, sometimes that's all it is. Basis, sunlight, not receiving that dose of sunlight. So that's one thing that we can refer to upon as epigenetics. You've got genetics, and then epi means upon or over. Epi, what's upon it? That's where our husbandry and what we do, to contribute to that dog's well-being, So with that being said, if you eliminate all those factors, second thing, what are the genetics of the parents? You got some animals that genetically can suffer from AIHA, autoimmune hemolytic anemia. So if there's already some sort of congenital defect that's going to affect the rest of this dog's life, neuter him or spay her right away. Why do we want to, snowball the effects of this? That's another thing. But, if you're working with a good solid base of genetics and a good dog and a good diet, I think the next thing that you can do is to improve upon all this is the dog. This is going to sound weird. Emotional well-being. And what does that mean? Stimulation. Take them out for a walk. Interact. Never, never, never deter a dog from its own curiosity. That's how they learn. Obviously, if it's curiosity that's getting them in trouble, then absolutely, change the environment, because that's all you can do is change the environment. So once you have worked with all of those variables and everything, and you still feel that dog is, malabsorbing nutrients because there's not enough fat in the food, there's not enough, vitamins A, D, and K, enough amino acids, enough minerals, enough fiber, then that's when you start jumping into the supplement world. And what is supplements? It's basically an insurance. Like our car, we got in a car here. I don't know if it's going to break down today or tomorrow, but guess what? I've got insurance on it, So same thing with your dog. There could be something there like just a lack of selenium, a mineral, and you are not very sure of it, and you look at your bag and it says it is there is enough of that in there, but it just happened to not be absorbing it properly, then you supplement, So now the cool thing about supplements is whatever isn't used, it gets urinated out, excreted out either through feces or through the urine. But at the same time, you've got your other vitamins that are fat soluble. Now your fat solubles are those mostly stored within the liver. And so as long as you're covering those bases, and I know I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but it's like, you should really read your owner's manual. If there is no owner's manual, then you're just kind of going off of what you read, what you see. Now, another thing is pay attention. Pay attention to your dog. If you see that the dog's gums, and you press on their dog's gum, and that time that it refills is called the CRT, capillary refill time, it's not coming in under 2 seconds, there's a good chance that dog might be anemic. And now I'm obviously going a little bit. If you pull down their eyelids and you notice this isn't really vibrant and pink, there's something lacking there, There's something, once again, I'm not going to say it's anemic. I'm just saying things that we look for. If you see its pupils are not constricting, they're constantly dilated, there's something going on. There could be a neurological effect. You notice this dog's attitude, temperament is not necessarily responding to stimulus or anything. There could be a neurological defect, So pay attention to your dog, because only you should know your dog as well as yourself. And after you've, and his skin is probably your best telltale sign, You want that nice, vibrant, full of lush, beautiful, looking hair or skin, and there's another telltale sign, if you start noticing a lot of kind of like a fishy or stagnant, musky odor, there's a good chance that you got some yeast that's fermenting in there. In the ears, you know, what's happening there, you take it, I mean, it's going to sound, are we going to Oakland or Stockton?
Oakland.
Okay,
right,
cool.
right.
So, sorry, guys. So, you know, I do this, and this is, you know, not for the faint of heart. You know, I'll go in there, put the ear, and I smell it. And I know what budding candida smells like. I call it budding candida, but for the most part, the type of yeast you find in ears is candida. They call it budding when you put it underneath a microscope and you got 3 little, you know, buds coming out of one single candida. That's when it's budding. That means it's reproducing. So that's another thing that, you know, if you see a lot of cornification around the nose, that means a lot of dead skin cells, you know, around the nose. You know, it's probably not properly hydrated, you know. So all these little tiny things, you know, look at the nails. Are they nice and thick and lush, and you know, are they frail and brittle, and do they just crack by just taking a little walk? You know, those are the types of things that you gotta pay attention to, you know. And then at the end of the day, this is going to sound very, 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 you know, off camber. Dogs do suffer from depression. They suffer from depression. Now, you guys all know that we've got certain hormones in our system.
I want to get over once.
Okay, cool. That when we are engaged in something, we release them, and you know, it helps to keep the serotonin within those synaptic joints for longer amounts of time. And unfortunately, right nowadays, we want to take a pill for everything. And I'm not discounting people that are taking antidepressives. If you have to take them. So I'm not, you know, that's your prerogative. You know, but those are called, for the most part, you know, there's benzodiazepines, SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, MAOI inhibitors. I mean, there's quite a few of them. So here's a little quick thing that you guys can do. Go fetch with your dog for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, you know, 5 minutes. You're not going to dislocate your arm, I promise you. Look at that dog's expression, its vitality, its vigor, and tell me how he eats his dinner that night. 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes. That alone, what you've done there is that you've increased that dog's circulation. You've gotten some more oxygen into the brain. You've gotten a lot of that muscle to actually start to break down. Once that muscle breaks out, that's what, you know, that's how people and animals build strength. They tear muscle, little micro tears in their muscle, and it grows upon each other. You know, it grows over and over and over. That dog, by, you know, working on a fur pole, doing these fast sprints back and forth, you've forced the body to regenerate itself. And within that amount of time where it's regenerating, it's giving you a hell of an opportunity to supplement them with good nutrition, you know, good H2O, and the bonding time that it's giving you. Once that dog has exerted that energy, it enters into that state of you know, per se, relaxation. You know, that serotonin level is high, it's kicking. That's where you take advantage. That's where you do a little bit of training. That's where you bond. That's where you take it to the next level with your dog, you know. But you have to, now, not every single dog has those needs and demands, you know. Not everyone. But there's other things that you can do to keep your animal stimulated. Because once you stop and you just throw that dog in the backyard, you know, to, I don't know, I mean, we use the term, you know, get full of worms. You know, it's almost becoming an inanimate object. It's become routine. I say, oh yeah, I gotta feed a dog because I gotta feed a dog. Why don't you give someone else the opportunity and put them up for adoption, you know? Give someone else the opportunity. I hope with that little spiel that I gave, it gives you guys some opportunities. There's some great supplements on the market. Some of them aren't so great. Do your research. And overall, guys, I hate to say this, do your own experiment. Do your own experiment. Give it some time. When I try a new dog food, I always give it 6 weeks. I don't go try a food and start recommending, oh, you got to try this dog food. You got to try. No, I give it 6 weeks. And, you know, and I start looking at the telltale signs, the feces, the dog's manners, its skin, its eyes, its ears. I go in between the toenails. I look at all these variables. I look at the texture of the skin, you know. So, you know, hopefully we've covered some you know, I'm kind of going on a rant here, you know, just kind of, you know, doing a little monotone here of just repeating things over. No, not repeating, but just going into a bit of a deep rabbit hole. It's got a little deep there, you know. And I hope it gave you guys some ideas or sparked your interest, or and if you feel so inclined, I encourage you to network with other people. You know, build up a Facebook group, an Instagram group. Go out and not just talk about it, but be about it. Go out to a park, and throw the ball with other people. Hey, how do you stimulate your dog? What do you do with your dogs? I mean, right now, as of lately, I've gotten this really, really crazy urge to shoot dog surfing championships again. I did that 3 years ago, and I was looking at some pictures, and it got me really, really, and I realized how athletic these dogs are, man. Here's a dog on a surfboard surfing in the Pacific, and I mean, kudos,
They have this.
They do, bro.
Gotta go.
They do. You would have a blast. I'll tell you. Rigo went with me. Unfortunately, he didn't have his cap on his camera, and something happened to his camera. He had an A7 III.
Oh God.
Rigo went with me. We had a blast, dude, and I'm gonna keep you posted, because that's something that's got me excited. But
let me know when.
And there's some of my pictures got published with that, and it's definitely you're gonna
Dog surfing championship.
Dog surfing champ. There's a league, a dog surfing championship league.
Shit.
And with these dogs, I mean, they come out in these droves, caravans. They come out with their own PR people interviewing them and doing these little interviews, and it's amazing, So I like to see what kind of diet they're on. What keeps them going? Like what specifically are they looking for? There's a high Na, which is the chemistry name for salt in the water in the ocean. Is there something that they use to counterbalance that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I would think there is, and if there isn't, maybe that's a good idea that we can do something to provide them with something to give them a better experience while they're out there in the water, Yeah. So I hope I covered some things with you guys and gave you guys stuff to think about. And with that being